So this is Against the Stream. Welcome. Um, I'm going to take a break from our regular scheduled kind of series that I've been going through, which has been the Eightfold Path. Well, it's all related because it's all Dharma, and everything is teaching us. Um, yeah, but something about this time of year brings contemplation for me around death. So we're going to talk about death and the Buddhist kind of practice around death contemplation. And we're going to talk about the fact that we all die and that most of us live the majority of our life, and most of the religions are actually set up to keep us feeling comfortable and in denial, or at least some acceptance of the way things are, but a little bit with a delusion. There's fairy tales about death. And so we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to do some practice around it. And just even me talking about it, just starting to talk about it, what comes up, just to maybe reflect for a moment, what came up when I said we're going to talk about death. Maybe you were like, yeah, I love that topic. Maybe you were like, can I leave now? Maybe if you're on Zoom, you're like, there's probably some other YouTube thing I can go that's about enlightenment and joy.
Maybe life after death better than right now.
Yeah, maybe life after death.
Who knows?
If there is a life after death. That's what lots of religions
Because human beings like a type of energy. Energy never disappears. Energy is forever.
That's true. That's true.
It's like, the law of universal. We come from what from we came.
Right.
So maybe the same place.
Yeah. So we'll get there, but I'm glad that you're reflecting on it. Yeah. Let's see. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about really the first foundation of mindfulness, which in what's called the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, which means basically the four foundations of mindfulness, the great teaching of the four foundations of mindfulness from a Buddhist perspective. And the first foundation is traditionally talked about as breath or body awareness, and that's true. But there's more to it that often gets just kind of glossed over. So I'll just read this little bit, that the development of mindfulness can be a whole practice often to itself, particularly around the breath and body. And one of the aspects is to see that breath and the realization of death practice and the understanding of the body, they're all can be kind of teased out in separate practices, yet they're grouped together as the first foundation of mindfulness, saying start with breath, body awareness, and the contemplation of the end of this body. That if the three characteristics of existence are true, and the three characteristics of existence from a Buddhist perspective are that shit happens, there is suffering in this world, that all things change, the impermanent nature of things, and don't take it personal. You're not the only one that's going to die. You're not the only one that has died. You're not the only one that suffered. You're not the only one that feels grief. That it's really all part of this experience here. So shit happens, all things change, don't take it personal. And the don't take it personal is the actual term is called anatta, which means that there is no fixed and permanent self to cling to. And that so much of our suffering comes from clinging even to this life, clinging to, being somebody, clinging to having things, clinging to making ourselves out to be someone or something or, possessions, and that there's a lot of suffering that happens around that. So yeah, so we'll do some basic practices, just moving on a little bit, some of the activities that are talked about in the first foundation. One is called 32 parts of the body. So the 32 parts of the body are a contemplation practice, an inquiry practice, and it basically, there's 32 parts that you chant through systematically over and over and over again. And I have actually done that practice, and it's really, really useful. But one of the main aspects that I'll bring in tonight is really just reflecting on hair, nails, teeth, skin. And so even just to kind of hair, nails, teeth, skin, and contemplating and connecting with our own hair, nails, teeth, and skin, which all die. They die while we're living. They die every day. Hair, nails, teeth, and skin are constantly dying off, and there's some new growth that's also taking place, hopefully, unless you're, genetically inclined, such as myself. And then it even goes into like head hair, body hair, and then, systematically moving through the organs and and not just the beautiful aspects of the body, but actually what's called the putrid aspects of the body, like bile and feces, spit and blood, and all of these all the parts of our body that we don't necessarily like about ourselves or even know. So this is, and then it goes through organs, and it goes through all these different aspects. So the 32 parts of the body is a contemplative practice that also has the idea is to prepare us for death. I often talk about how this practice, or Buddhism in general, is really preparing us to die, or helping us to come out of denial of some very key elements that we get stuck in, we get caught in, which cause the ripple of dissatisfaction. So coming out of denial. So we'll do some practices around that. And then there's another practice known as the 4 elements practice. And so the 4 elements practice, which we'll do a bit of today in the guided meditation in a few minutes. This is really not only just seeing the change and the fact that this body will die, but also that it's not just this body. It's not just our body, that it's actually elements. There's an earth element to this body. There's a water element to this body, that we're actually just like the earth. There is, I just say earth element. There's a fire element to this body. There is a wind or an air element to this body. And this is, for me, it's been a very deep contemplation. And, even like the earth itself, the earth is only alive because of the fire in the center of it, and the sun, the energy of the sun, right? Otherwise, it would just die, just like this body. And so that's part of the contemplation of the first foundation of mindfulness. And then it goes on to talk about the decay of the body, and to literally contemplate the death and the decay of this body. And so I guess maybe because it's close to Halloween, or it's close to the Day of the Dead, or it's just, it's just a practice that I like to kind of bring in every so often. And I was thinking about death today. I was actually working with someone. I was kind of inspired. I was working with someone who is older, and I've known them for a really long time. And they're worried about their own demise, about the end of life. And not totally worried, but like, blocked, stuck a little bit. And we worked together. And so it just kind of inspired me and also allowed me to kind of do some reflection for myself. Oh, yeah, I'm getting older too. Oh, yeah, this body too will perish at one point. And it's really useful and important to see that, not as a macabre, but as a way to, how can we further, live in this moment, in each moment, because none of us are guaranteed another, So that's some of the contemplation so far. I want to kind of move into, we'll move into some meditation, and then we'll kind of loop back around. But I'm going to bring in some of the elements that I've talked about, the 4 elements, and also some death contemplation, body-centered meditation practice tonight. So I want to encourage you. I spaced out the chairs a little bit, and people helped me, and I appreciate that, because I want to encourage you to lay down, to get into corpse pose. If you want to grab cushions, grab a cushion for your head, but if you really, if you feel comfortable, and those of you at home, laying down, and not like you're going to roll over on your side and fall asleep, but like a corpse, like in a coffin. Of course, it's your choice. You don't have to, right? But if you feel up to it, it allows for the body scan. Yeah.
Did you remember that day, Jason, early in the
You want this blanket?
You and I
Yeah.
were sitting in the back,
you want this
having
blanket?
horrible allergy attacks. Everybody's freaking out.
We do vacuum this at least once a week.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Use the blanket.
You want the blanket?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Fine.
I'm good. It'll be good.
So for the rest of you, just finding a posture where you can be relaxed and alert, laying down, sitting upright. All right, and settling into a posture that's workable, that's sustainable. Hearing the bell. And so we'll just start with feeling the breath in the body, laying in a corpse pose, even seated up, feeling the breath in the body. This breath is born, stays for a time, and passes away. See if you can connect to the beginning, the middle, and the end of each breath. Connecting with the air element of this body. Perhaps shifting to the earth element of this body, the solidity, the bones. The muscles, the organs, the hair, the nails, the teeth, and the skin of this body. The earth element. The hardness, the heaviness, the solidity of this body. Not as me or mine, just as earth element. Just as air element. The breath, the different gases in this body. The water element of this body. The fluidity, the liquidity, connectiveness. The binding nature. The blood, the urine, the spit, the tears, the sweat, the bile, all of the water element. Shifting to the fire element of this body, warmth or cold, the emotion, feeling of heatedness, being heated, the electrical energy of this body, the life force energy of this body. So taking some time, perhaps shifting to the earth element, the bones, the solidity, the heaviness of this body, the material nature of this body. The earth or the tree or the rock. The bones, the bone marrow. Perhaps scanning through the body from head to feet, feet to head. Just bringing awareness to all the sensations that are present. Solidity, fluidity, heat or cold, the energy, the breath. And then imagining for a time that the life force energy that keeps the heart pumping and the brain active it's not even an imagination, it's really an understanding. This will come to an end. This body is going to die. We will get old. We will get sick. And eventually, this body will perish from existence. And a dissolving process will take place. Just as all things that arise pass away. So too will this body. I see my own body dead for a few days, bloated, blue, festering. I see my own body infested with worms and flies, decaying. I see that all that is left of my body is a skeleton with some flesh and blood still clinging to it. I further consider my skeleton corpse without any flesh, yet still spotted with blood and held together with tendons. All that is left of my dead body is a skeleton with no blood stains, held together by tendons. I see now that all is left is a collection of scattered bones. The bones of the feet have gone one way, the bones of the hands another, a thigh bone, a pelvis, spinal vertebra, jaw, teeth, a skull, have all come apart in different directions. They are all now just bare bones. All that is left is a collection of bleached bones. A year has passed, and I see that my dead body is reduced to being a pile of old bones. These bones decay and become dust, blown apart and scattered by the wind. They cannot even be called bones anymore. Everyone has to die. It's not personal. Our lifespan is decreasing continuously. The amount of time spent during our life to develop the mind is fleeting. Human life expectancy is uncertain. Our possessions and enjoyments cannot help at the end. Our loved ones cannot help at the end. Our own bodies, no matter how well we take care of them, cannot help. There is no avoiding death. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearm and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Connecting again to your earth element, the bones, the organs, the hair, the nails, the teeth, the skin, the muscles and tendons. The water element, the fluidity, the connectiveness. The air element, the breath, arising, staying for a time, passing away. We are only alive one breath at a time. This life force energy, the warmth of the body, the emotion of the body, the life force, the electrical impulse. I am of the nature to get ill, to get sick. I am of the nature to get old. We can escape getting old. I am of the nature to die. No one escapes death. How will you live? What is the most useful undertaking for this life? So what I'd like to do now is actually have you guys turn into small groups, and I'm going to break you into small groups and just reflect. What was that like for you? Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral? Was it disgusting? Was it hard? Was it fun? Not in here. Okay? So just a reflection. Yeah, we'll just kind of leave it at that. We'll just kind of leave it open. So just turn towards, get in little groups of 3. And I'll ring a bell in a few minutes. And so try to give yourself like a minute each, perhaps. Okay, guys, we'll see you in a bit. About 20 more seconds. And we're back. Right. So let's, it's great. There was some lively chat. Hopefully that happened in the room. I saw that maybe some of the rooms, not everyone got into the chat, so I apologize if I messed up in some way. And for those of you in the YouTube world in the future, maybe you can, well, I should have said this before, you could do some reflection for yourself. Okay, what came up? Anyone want to share either their own practice or their own experience, either during the meditation or in the discussion? Maybe if you shared something that came up during the discussion, either on the Zoom or in the room. Open discussion, sharing. Please.
Just we were talking and just feeling inspired, like life is now, and like specifically like why am I so afraid of certain things, and how much it limits me, and how much that makes my life smaller. And then a reminder that life is, short, or maybe not short, but it's unpredictable, and that it was inspiring. I was like, I really need to like start doing this, that, and the other, and why am I not? So.
Great. That's the intention, hopefully, is that it's kind of like, I had this, I was at this monastery in southern Thailand. It's called Wat Suan Mok. And if you ever want to go, if you're ever in southern Thailand, in the Chaya district, Wat Suan Mok is the Garden of Liberation. And they have a 10-day meditation retreat that starts the first Monday or Sunday of every month. So it's just going. You just show up. Of course, they have a website, but it's called Garden of Liberation, Wat Suan Mok. Anyway, there was this guy. He was the elderly monk, the abbot, and he would come out every night. If you remember me talking about my mosquito situation where the mosquitoes were eating me and I just let them eventually, that was where it was, at Wat Suan Mok. And he would come out and he was always like Yoda, like he was like with a little cane, like a wooden cane and robes, and like spoke in this broken English. It was very much Yoda-like, And he's super wise. He was like, must be in, late 80s. And he would come out and he would say, every night he would come out for the final meditation of the evening, which was at 9:30. And he would say, effort is the duty of today. For even tomorrow, death may come. And that was like his inspirational speech, of like practice. Wake up, see clearly, live freely, Effort is the duty of today, for even tomorrow death may come. And it just always, and it totally inspired me I would be up all night. I couldn't sleep, practicing. So thanks for sharing that. It is uncertain, as we all know. We all just kind of came through so much uncertainty, fear and doubt, uncertainty. It's not like it wasn't there and then it was there and now it's not there anymore. It was always there. And we were just really so friggin' distracted and busy. And then all of a sudden, slow it down. And then depending on your type, your personality type, if you were a go, go, go person, life changed. And we became very aware. If you were a very introverted kind of, there were some people that were like, oh, I love this lockdown stuff. I'm reading books, I'm getting things done, I'm getting unemployment, I don't even have to work. They were into it for about 6 or 8 weeks. Yeah. So anyway, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD. I call it FUD. I have a meditation that is about addressing fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And this kind of contemplation is very similar. Yeah. Sorry, enough. I shouldn't be talking. I want to hear from you.
I remember back in the day, they'd have those movies and it would be about like the nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
People would die and they'd have like just the skeleton.
Yeah.
I was like, well, at least that's certain.
Yeah.
That gave us some sort of solace. Like, oh yeah, well, great. Well, you'll just. But it's the uncertainty of not knowing. That is, the FUD.
The FUD of it, yeah. I remember those too. Yeah.
As a former Christian, I think that there's inscribed in my habitual thinking the possibility of an afterlife that looked very specific. Clouds, the sky.
Yeah.
The light.
The harps.
Yeah. And when I'm a Buddhist and I studied with the Tibetan lineage. And there's a lot of afterlife talk and teachings.
Yeah.
The Bardos and Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's beautiful valid material.
Mm-hmm.
But the starkness of a Theravadan approach to contemplating death is really powerful, and you know, I find a lot of value in just pressing pause on any kind of wishful thinking and just dying and just like allowing for that kind of severe silence. And it's probably the most powerful thing that important reminders do. It's just such it's a bucket of cold water, but it's such a necessary thing to just snap you out of the illusion of waiting for the next thing to save you.
Later. I can do it later.
One day.
Or if I'm good in this life, which is this is a bit of a it's not only Christian, right, but it's also there's also some of this in the all of Buddhism. This, if I'm good in this life, then I'll get the reward in the next life.
Merit.
Merit. Right. Good. I'll develop good karma, and then my next life will be fortunate rebirth, which would mean this to be born again in this realm. This is the fortunate rebirth, by the way. So yeah, there's some of that sprinkled in. But I appreciate what you're saying, and that's why I did it. And I felt a little like, I don't know, it's a little like bloated and festering and worms, and like maybe people are like weirded out by it. And if you are, then I guess I apologize. But it is the stark reality. It's the ice bucket challenge of this practice. Yeah. There was something else about that. Oh yeah, and then the other thing, even as I was going through, what I did, I went through that's the contemplation in the Maha Satipatthana Sutta. So that's the kind of direct translation of how we're supposed to. And I've done this, in charnel grounds, going to graveyards. Go visit a graveyard, hang out, meditate. It's so peaceful there. Yeah, walking meditation, in graveyards.
Especially this Holy Cross.
The Forever Hollywood
Cemetery.
Yeah, the Forever Hollywood Cemetery.
It's like I think it's something freeway. Nearby. And you go inside, and like suddenly going to be silent.
Yeah.
And you understand, like infinity. And it's like a different world. Absolutely, like like no time, nothing. Like, and it's like a no time. It's like time to stop.
Yeah.
And after this, you go from cemetery outside. It's like freeway people.
Yeah,
moving.
right. Busy.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Yes, like different world.
Almost every city, when I was traveling for a while for work and whatnot, and I would go visit a cemetery. And I was in New Orleans actually, and they have amazing cemeteries in New Orleans. And I was sitting. And I wasn't even really, I was doing some like looking at the tombstones and, the mausoleums and the names and the dates and some of that. But at some point it was really hot actually. And I found a tree. There was like 3 in the whole friggin' cemetery. And I went and I sat on this kind of a mausoleum that was next to the tree. So it was shaded by the tree. And I just sat and I kind of fell into a pretty peaceful meditation. And then after some time, I got up and I turned to the tombstone or the mausoleum to bow, and it said Murphy. And I didn't notice it before. And it was like, whoa, it just was like a, smack. And yeah, it just was cool. It was a cool moment of like, yeah, that's what I've been doing here, that this too will be me, although hopefully not wrapped up in a mausoleum and in a coffin and pumped full of all kinds of weird preservatives. Like, that's another thing that we really do in this country, I could say more, but I want to hear from Michael.
Thanks, Jason. This is something in the past that I was very averse to and disassociated a lot with and was in a lot of denial about. But tonight, I don't know why, for some reason, I just was more accepting and investigated the texture of it and just went with it and lied down and like went with your guidance. And even in practice, I'm in a Ajahn Tomato course that Noah has going. And, you know, you talked about the Yoda like monk who had given that, you know, the talking about effort and Ajahn Tomato had talked about that this morning in one of his talks, so it kind of intersected. And it's so good just to kind of not contest experience, just investigate the texture breath by breath, moment by moment. And like, because I'm a striver, like that's just my nature. And lately I'm just like not striving, just like next right indicator step, breath by breath, like going with experience. And that was really tranquil for me tonight. And that's such a big departure and change for me relative to death. I mean, I feel like I just accepted it, and I'm more accepting of that, of the recollections and of death. And I don't have, I just want to just go moment to moment. And I mean, it's like, just let go and just go breath by breath.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike, for sharing that. Anyone else in the room want to share their experience? Please.
Just one quick sort of observation, your thoughts on it maybe. My friend who made a documentary recently about the homeless in Venice, one of her observations was that, everybody sort of has their opinions about the homeless and whatever. But when a homeless person dies, then all of a sudden the police and the paramedics, they act very differently with this sort of respect for the body that they weren't given when they were just on the streets, and what is that respect that all of a sudden everybody has for the body that the person is sort of it's just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have hopefully some reverence for the dead, even sometimes when healing couldn't happen with family members or, people that we've had difficulties with after death, it's still possible, it's more possible. So there's some kind of, I think that's just my kind of 2 cents about it. And I've known people and I've spoken with people who are like I'll never forgive my dad, or whatever, right? That person or the abuser, and then upon death, there's usually a lot of regret that they didn't, and then there can be some healing, some peace that can happen through that. One of my Dharma friends from a long time ago used to say, and he was like a folk singer, and he used to like folk punk is I think what he called himself, folk punk singer, and he would say, forgive everybody everything. Forgive everybody everything. Why not? You don't ever have to bring them into your house again, but you don't have to carry the weight. Forgive everybody everything. And this is a person who had a lot of adversity, a lot of abuse, and was openly gay in a very kind of Republican, country town, and got beat up and got, was a, just there was, I don't want to get into too much of his story, but he had a lot of reasons to hate people. Forgive everybody everything. What do you have to lose? You only have to gain. Yeah. Only your chains. Yeah. Fair enough.
I discovered something funny when my aunt died in New York, and I went and picked up her ashes. I posted a picture on Facebook of I stopped at our favorite pizza place, and the box of her ashes on the table. I'm eating pizza, and I said, "It's the last time I'm going to eat pizza with my aunt." 250 people on Facebook started talking about how they sprinkled ashes in different places in Manhattan of like their father, their uncle, whoever it was. And I was like, oh my God, the whole of Manhattan
The whole-
is basically
littered.
people's ashes.
It's littered with
Like,
people's
who
ashes.
Give me a whole nother perspective, like walking back to the apartment
Right,
with
right.
like, wow, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
it's everywhere.
It's true. It's true.
A lot of them were at ballparks.
Uh-huh.
Like
Uh-huh.
Yankee Stadium.
Sure.
That's where you want yours.
That's where I want my ashes. Thanks for sharing that. And I like the this is the last time I get to eat pizza with you. That's great. I don't know. Is there anything more up for people? Sharing the practice. Please.
Can I get a copy of this meditation?
Yeah.
This is my favorite.
Uh-huh.
Who's the poem author?
Oh, that the poem is Mary Oliver, and it's called "The Summer's Day." And I felt like it was a little bit more uplifting at the end of, and then your bones and you're festering and you're not existent, and then this, what are you going to do with this one precious life? And it's my favorite line. Yeah. Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I have another, this is from a Tibetan yogi named Milarepa, pretty famous. And he wrote, "The fear of death and infernal rebirths due to the evil actions has led me to practice. In solitude, in the snow-capped mountains, on uncertainty of death's duration. No, I'm sorry, on the uncertainty of life's duration and the moment of death, I have deeply meditated. Thus have I reached the deathless, unshakable citadel of realization of the absolute essence. My fear and doubts have vanished like mist into the distance, never to disturb me again. I will die content and free from regrets. This is the fruit of Dharma practice." Milarepa, Tibetan yogi. Like 18th century. So much of the practice is about kind of just being comfortable with that idea. This too shall pass. And we get so locked into I said in the beginning, the three characteristics of existence. We get so locked in to the first one, suffering, and cling to all of these things that we think are going to help us relieve the suffering. This is where addictions come from, where, the kind of greed comes from, attachment. But the other two are the liberating factors, the impermanent nature of things is all this is the impermanent nature that we're talking about. And so it's also the positive of it, you know. And then the not self. There's no fixed and permanent, from the Buddhist perspective, anything here. Just like there. So why do we get so bound up? You know. Sometimes, you know, I talk about my past, you know, I talk about my life, and, you know, I feel like I've had several incarnations in this life, you know. Somebody not that long ago was asking me, like, you know, if you ever want to talk about things about your life, you know. And I'm like, I mean, it's part of the conditioning that I have been raised in, you know, raised with. But so much of it is really just these karmic kind of cycles, you know. And it's not avoidance. So I'm not like, I don't try to avoid my life. I'll talk about it when it feels appropriate, or, you know, whatever. Right? But here, this is what matters. Sometimes when I'm my own practice, or when I'm working with people, I get the why. Why is this happening to me? I don't know. And I don't really care, actually. I mean, I care, but I don't care, right? It's the how. One, how am I going to cope with this right now? And how am I going to move forward and be lighter in my own life? Have less of that kind of karmic kind of heaviness, you know? And I feel like this practice and the liberation is really about letting go of that heaviness. Just some thoughts. Anyone else? Please.
Why do you think the abbot gave the sort of seize the day teaching at the end of the day? Almost kind of reminds me of sort of his master, transformation.
Yeah. I mean, I think like what happens on retreat, and he, you know, lived in a monastery. You know, he was a monk for I don't even know how long. I think, I mean, he was trying to inspire us to really delve into the practice, even though our bodies were tired. We've been sitting on tiny little, you know, pillows and that were like rope, and on a concrete fucking floor every day for, you know, 18 hours. Sitting, walking, sitting, walking. So at the end of the day, he was like trying to encourage us, because what happens for me during meditation, longer meditation retreats, and those of you who've been on retreat, maybe you've experienced this, the mind becomes very energized. The body fucking killing you, right? So even if I was like I would go, and this is also the same place that has the wooden pillow that I was talking about. It was literally, it reminded me of the jail cells that I had spent, drunk tanks and stuff, like concrete, you know, concrete bed with a wooden pillow, or you know, replace toilet paper roll for anyone who's ever been in a drunk tank, and or a holding cell. And anyway, I would go and I would lay down, and my body would be vibrating with energy. Yet it was, you know, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I had been meditating all day. So, you know, I think he was kind of saying, seize that opportunity to practice. So, you know, doing walking practice, or, you know, sitting outside, or, you know, because, I mean, just like he was saying, to put, you know, bringing the effort, using that wise effort, not just believing the laziness or the, you know, oh, I've done enough meditation for today, you know. it's not lazy, but just that I've done enough meditation, which sometimes that's the right thing to do, you know. Just to make it, just to kind of balance the concrete bed and the wooden pillow, there was a natural hot spring that was just right outside my door, which was a beautiful place to meditate in the hot spring. So there was another was it a monk? I can't remember his name. That would just say, "Oh, this was in Burma, but I can't remember his name right now." But he would just say, "Carry on, carry on." At the end of every Dharma talk, you know, he would give a Dharma talk, and he would say, you know, "Carry on, keep going," right? So, thank you for your time and attention. If there's no other kind of questions, we'll wrap up for the night. I appreciate your coming both to the center here and online, and you know, of course, this center is run completely on the donation of those who attend, and we'd like to do more here. And I'm planning some day-longs in the near future. And with the effort is the duty of today, we'll have some day-longs. In the near future, I'll kind of see what works for my schedule, but it's time. We haven't really had a day-long here in a while. So in person, and I think maybe I'll do a hybrid thing for people who want to attend. But yeah, a day-long is basically like a 9 to 4 practice, sitting, walking, little group discussions, just a longer period of dedication to, thanks for asking, yeah. A longer period of dedication to practice. Usually there's a theme, you know. Yeah. And so anyway, you can donate. There's a link in the chat, and there's a bowl and a Venmo on the desk. Also, you can always go to againstthestream.com and click on the donate button. You can actually become a monthly donor here, which really helps us to kind of sustain, and it just makes it easy. And then you come when you can, and you don't have to worry about if you brought cash or Venmoing or whatever. But we appreciate it. So just gathering all the goodness of our practice, because we don't only do this for ourselves, we do this practice, we participate for the liberation of all beings. May I be happy and free from suffering. May all beings be happy and free from suffering. May any goodness be dedicated to the freedom from suffering for all beings.